Hey, Daniel here. I'm going to do what's called a pro YouTube move. I'm going to blow you away with these first 5 Blender 2.8 add-ons to get your attention, and then I'm also going to blow you away with the other 95, or most of them. No, really, this took an unhealthy amount of time, so please help me. Add-on number 1 is Command Recorder. Now this was particularly a pain to get set up, so check the description for a link to where you download these, and also a couple tips on how to get it installed correctly. So the way you use this one is you can basically start recording, and then you can just do some operations, right? And then you click stop, and then now you've got all of the actions that you just did recorded, so I could then go and do that macro on anything else. And you can do this with pretty much any operation at all, and then you can go and put it down here into this list, and you can just rename it to something. You can also actually set this up to be a macro, so if you have some extra keys on your mouse or on your keyboard, you can use those if you have some actions that you like to use a lot, but you just want to assign them to a macro. Now, I've got a quick disclaimer before add-on number 2, and that is to hold on to wherever you're sitting, because when I first discovered this one, I fell out of my entire chair. Don't you love going to texture sites and picking out some textures, bringing them into Blender, putting them in the node editor, putting it all together, and then just watching it take shape? Yeah, it's super fun. So let's check out how much easier it is with Lily Surface Scraper. Let's see, so you open it up in the Materials tab. Oh, we got some websites listed here. So far, so good. CC0 Textures is one of them. Okay, now we can go through the popular materials, for example. I like this. This one looks cool. Okay. All right, so far so good. Now copy the link from the bar up top. All right, now go to Import Surface, paste the URL, press OK, choose which texture resolution you want, press OK again. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes the URL and generates the entire material for you. Oh, would you look at that? It happened again. Add-on number 3 comes packaged default with Blender, so all you have to do is turn it on. Now essentially what this does is allows you to create your own turntable animations basically automatically. First go into your camera view and then kind of rotate the camera around to look where you need it to. Just set up a quick shot and then go into the Properties tab with N and scroll down to Animate and then select the object you want the camera to turn around and then click this button. And then it's just going to start rotating around the object, and you can create your own turntable animations this way very, very easily. This next one is called MTree. If you've ever considered getting SpeedTree or anything like that, well, think again, because you can get it for free with MTree. It's actually a very easy install, and it allows you to create trees in Blender, just generate them with nodes. They've got a few presets in here, and all you have to do is go into the MTree node tree, and then add in your nodes. Usually you start with a trunk and a branch, and then there's other options as well. As you can see, there's tons of parameters. There's heavy documentation for this add-on online, and then once you're ready, you just click Create Tree, and it'll create the tree for you. And if you want to be really fancy, you can choose to create leaves. You can actually set what you want your leaf to be, and then click Update the Tree. And I just used a masked image for these leaves. So you're going to want to create a more advanced material for that. But as you can see, it looks very, very cool, and I just generated it with nodes for free. This next one is called R_array. And the way to use it is select your object, press Ctrl Q, and now you've got this going on. Isn't that cool? So you scroll your mouse around, you just drag it around to do the offset, and then you scroll your mouse wheel to control the count of the objects. It's a really cool add-on, and I would find it useful for anything involving radio symmetry. Add-on number 6 is Tri-Lighting, packaged by default with Blender. All you need to do is select an object, press Shift-A, and under Light, go to 3-point lights, and it'll add in a typical 3-point light setup for you. You can, of course, adjust the energy and the height, and pretty much every single parameter you can think of. You can also choose to switch the key and fill lights with area or spot or point or any kind of light. This next one is simply called 3D Navigation. It's packaged default by Blender, and to access it, go into the End tab under View. You'll find a section called 3D Nav. Go into there, and now you can basically move around the camera in the scene just with these buttons in the side over here. So for instance, I could go into different orthographical views, or I could head to the camera's view, toggle perspective and orthographic, And another useful one is the cursor. You can just snap the cursor to the world origin or the view, for example, or to the selected object. If you prefer to do that rather than Shift S, this can be a pretty helpful tool for you. Copy render settings comes default with Blender, and like the name would suggest, it allows you to copy render settings from one scene to another. This next one is cell fracture. I've talked about it before, but it's just so cool. Basically, you select an object and then you go to cell fracture, mess with the settings until you get something that you like, and then once you're done, you'll have something like this, and it's really cool, and you can just do a whole bunch of things with it. For example, you could mess with rigid bodies, which is another tip that I'll be talking about in a future video. Number 10 is export paper model. All you've got to do is have a model that is ideally cleaned up. I just did this, and I think the best way is to have as few really small faces as possible, and then go up to File, Export, and Paper Model, and it'll tell you if you messed up your model and have you fix it, and then you can choose to export it as a PDF, and then it'll give you this right here, and you can choose to add textures from the materials and all that, and then you print it out, and then you can put it all together, cut it out. You can use glue, tape. I used tape, but I kind of messed mine up a little bit. It was the first time, so sorry about that. But it's really cool, and I could see myself making more things with this in the future. This add-on allows you to bevel a vertex with Ctrl-Shift-B. Nope, that's just Blender. Add-on 11 is called TubeTool. All you need to do is select two different faces, go W, add tubing, and then you got a whole bunch of options as to how you want to mess with this tube here. You can make it smooth, you can mess with the radius on each end. It's a really cool little tool, and it's really easy to set up. Number 13 is BSurfaces. It's free, it's part of Blender. All you have to do is go into your grease pencil or annotation and draw a shape. It could really be anything, and then you draw like in the order that you want it to go. And then once you've got your whole shape going on, then you just press initialize over in this end panel over here, and then you choose your stats over in this corner. I'm going to choose cycle across, and then you just click add surface, and it'll generate a model for you based on the strokes that you put down. So that's really cool. Now this next one is Loop Tools. It's also free with Blender, and well, there's just a lot of things that this one can do, but one of the more popular that I've seen people do is W, Loop Tools, Circle, and you can just generate kind of a circle from whatever mesh you have, and then do with that what you will. It's pretty cool, I would say, and there's just so much that you can do with it that I would just go check out the documentation or something. Now the next one is Node Wrangler, and everybody already knows that if you do Control-Shift-Click, you can get a viewer node, and that's all nice, but did you know that you can do Alt, right-click and drag, and then it'll automatically connect just lazily, so you could be far off or anything, just whack. There it is. Also, if you do Alt-Shift and do the same thing, you can choose from a menu which one you want it to go through. There's actually a lot of features of Node Wrangler that no one really knows about or uses, and so there's some documentation for that online. The next one is Face Builder, and I know everyone and their mother have already made a video about Face Builder, so I'm not going to really explain that one to you right now. Basically, it allows you to create faces from images, which is super cool. The next one is Render Burst. I don't have any renders to burst right now, but if I did, I would go down to Render Burst in the Properties panel, choose All Cameras, and hit Render, and it will render all of your cameras for you all at the same time. So you can just walk away and leave it to burst, I guess. Are there a bunch of pesky materials clogging up your material slots? Well, if they're not used on the mesh, there's an add-on to help with that. All you have to do is download the Material Slot Cleaner add-on, and then press the spacebar or whatever your search button is, and then use the Matte Slot Cleaner. It's just going to remove from the list any of the materials that aren't being used on the mesh. That way you can keep your scenes nice and clean. This next one is called Projectile. Basically, you can select any object and then press New Emitter. That's what I have over here. And then with this emitter, you can adjust all the projectile settings, and then you click execute and play, and then it'll play the animation. And so of course it's really fun. Anything that involves physics is always a blast because you can always just crank the velocity up to, you know, 3000, and then oh, it's gone. It is very gone. Now this next one you may have heard of. It's called Real Camera by 3D Wolf, and essentially it just has real camera settings for those of you photographers. There's also another add-on called Photographer, which allows you to do kind of the same thing, except when I was scrolling through researching this, I noticed he also has all of these other products for free. Real sky with very nice HDRIs, real grass with grass that looks very nice, a library of trees called Real Trees, Real Snow. This guy is just killing it, and so I wanted to feature this add-on. It's all free. It's just a great service to the Blender community. Add-on 21 is Archimesh. You go into Mesh, Archimesh, and you'll find a whole bunch of different things. For example, rooms. You got all these settings up in the end panel. You can change the number of walls, for example. It'll automatically create baseboards in there. You can import windows, for example, and then place it where you want. And then if you select the room, you can choose auto holes, and it'll automatically create a boolean for that window there. There's lots of other objects in here. You got stairs, cabinets, and much more. Closely related is the Archipack add-on. And this one has some similar tools. You can create walls, and now it has this cool little interface. And there's also just a whole bunch of other objects in this add-on as well. And the best part is that they're all procedural, so you won't get any stretching or anything like that. This next one is oddly fun to use. It's called Building Tools. And when you enable it, down in the bottom of the end panel, you'll find Create Floor Plan. You can mess with the settings of that, or go into edit mode directly, where you can click Add Floors. Now you can choose how many floors you want, what the height of each floor should be, and once you're ready, you can actually go through and do things like add windows, and you can choose how many windows will be on each. You can choose to make them arched. There's just a whole bunch of settings. It's very cool, and it's very well put together. And for doors, you could just go down to the bottom here, add door, and do the exact same type of thing. You can add stairs, and once you're ready, you can go ahead and add a roof. How convenient. There's plenty of YouTube videos on Blender GIS out there already, but essentially what it does is it allows you to use real satellite data and create some 3D models with it. Number 25 is Ivy Gen. It allows you to generate cool ivy structures on your models. I already talked about it in my 100 tips video. Go check that out, by the way, if you haven't. And it's pretty well known, but I feel like it's worth including because it is very useful. From the giveaway, I learned that a lot of people are interested in the HardOps add-on. So in these next couple add-ons, I just want to show you how you can basically replicate the entire HardOps workflow with only free add-ons. So the first one is called QBlocker, and this is like the add function in HardOps. So essentially what you can do is press Shift-A, QBlocker, plain in cube, and you can just start grabbing and creating mesh just like this. It's really simple. You can press Control to make sure that it only starts from the center, and as you can see, there's like a whole bunch of other options down towards the bottom there. It's a very useful tool, especially for just blocking models, and that's a lot of the reason why people use this specific function with HardOps. It allows you to just kind of draw on geometry onto other models. So obviously this is a disaster, but as you can see, it's got a lot of potential. The next part of this makeshift HardOps is called Carver MT. I'll leave the link in the description, of course, like all of them. And so all you have to do with this one is just select the object that you want to carve, and then press space or whichever your search button is, go to Carver, and it's going to start out with this menu right here. It's going to start out as a rectangle, so just click to initiate, and then click again, and it will chop out the shape of that rectangle. There's other modes like a line or a circle, so like I could just chop out a whole circle right there. But of course it is best when it's used in combination with all of the other tools. And one of the final legs here would be GCUT. It has just a bunch of miscellaneous tools. Some of them match what HardOps has to offer, such as clever mirroring options and bevel options. You can get it on Gumroad, and the reason why I'm on this screen right here is to show you how you can get any of these for free. Any of the Gumroad links that say 0+ in here, you just type in 0 and then click I want this. This one's called HDRi Sun Aligner. I'll show you how simple it is. All you have to do is put in your HDRI, click Add New Sun, calculate sun position, and rotate active object. Now it's going to point the sun directly where the sun should be pointing. Discombobulator. All you have to do is select what you want to discombobulate, Shift-A, Discombobulator, and then you have a whole bunch of settings. Just know that if you turn up repeat protrusions, you will probably crash Blender unless you have a really powerful graphics card. Click OK, and this is basically what it does. Now these next few add-ons are made by other tutorial makers in the community, so props to all of them. This one is by J&M. It's called Shortcut VUR, and essentially it allows you to show your keystrokes when you're making a video or something. So to access it, install it first, then go into the End tab. Under Shortcut VUR, press Start. You can choose where to dock it and all of that stuff. You can choose the color and all of that, and it just shows you exactly what you need to do. I should really start using that. This next one is called ByGen by Curtis Holt, and I felt it necessary just to kind of show you some of the work that can come out of it because I'm not that qualified right now. I haven't been getting a lot of experience with it, but it's by Curtis Holt, and he's a cool guy with some cool tutorials as well, so check him out. It's essentially a procedural surface add-on, so as you can see how cool all these different faces look? Well, with Bygen, you can just generate this kind of look. Check it out. It's on Gumroad for $0. Again, just type in the 0 there to be able to get it for free. And also check out Curtis Holt. The next add-ons are JMesh and JSculpt by J&M. This is his channel right here. That's how you spell it. And essentially, it's a collection of hard surface and sculpting tools that are obviously very useful. Here are the 2 GitHub pages for these 2 add-ons. I will, of course, link them in the description. This next one allows you to control select to create selection paths. Oh wait, no, that's Blender 2. Look, I get these are jokes, but in all reality, it's difficult to remember all the add-ons that you have installed. I, for one, always forget to click them on or off or save the preferences, and it is easy to clutter up your bar over here. So one of the best policies is just to remember the basic features that Blender can do. I talked about this one in my tips video, and a bunch of people told me that they had no idea they could do this. So that's just a good sign to just learn what you can and try to remember it. Now this next one is a node-based generative modeling Russian Blender add-on called Sverchok. I think I may be pronouncing that completely wrong, but that's okay. I tried. Here's some examples. You can download the blend files for these. I'm not that good with all the node-based stuff, especially the function. As you can see, a lot of this is going to be mathematical. So if that's something that you're into, then this could absolutely be the add-on for you. I decided to throw in another alternative node-based modeling add-on in here. It's called Sorcar, and well, let me just show you what this is all about. They've got some good GIF examples here of what it's capable of. As you can see, there's 200 plus nodes in here. It's just ridiculous. Of course, this is not my cup of tea, but I did want to put it in here for those of you who do this kind of thing. This one you're going to have to get off of blenderartist.org. It essentially allows you to make these profile faces and then duplicate them and attach them all along another object, just like this in this demonstration video by Andrea Rastelli. So I'll provide the link in here. Ever since Blender introduced the Shift-A image references, backgrounds, this add-on is less prevalent, but I still use it from time to time to create emission objects and actual meshes with textures on them. It's images as planes. You've probably heard of it before if you've been following Blender for a long time, or even just over a year probably. And so under image in Shift-A menu, just go to images as planes, and then you can just choose an image and add it in. And it'll add a material onto it automatically with the texture that you chose applied. Jewelcraft is a jewelry creation add-on, and it's got a whole bunch of options in here and gems to pick from. As you can see, there's just a ton of them. The real power comes when you start using curves and arrays to do this type of thing. It's very powerful, and I'm sure if any of you are very passionate about jewelry, this would be a great add-on for you to check out. This one's power comes mostly from the associated software than the add-on itself. I'm sure you've seen buzz about Meshroom. It's an open source photogrammetry software. CG Geek has an excellent tutorial on this. It essentially allows you to just take pictures with either a camera or a phone and piece them together into a 3D model using Meshroom. And the Meshroom to Blender add-on associated with this is what will allow you to bring it into Blender to make some awesome renders with it. This next add-on is called Extra Objects. There's an Add Mesh version and an Add Curve version of this. The Add Mesh one comes with things like single vertices, round cubes, and random things such as teapots. You can also graph mathematical equations in 3D space with this add-on. And the Add Curve part of it adds, well, a whole bunch of different curves, including, for example, a braid knot. This next one is called Blender Kit. It's essentially an asset manager and a library of materials and 3D models that you can use for free. There is a paid plan, but there's also a free plan. And they've got a whole bunch of models for you to use, and a lot of them are actually free, but most of them are going to be from the full plan. It's really useful if you want to especially add in just your own models and you tend to use a lot of different assets. There's a lot of ways that you could end up using this. Everything's already got materials applied. They're all Cycles and Eevee compatible, which I think is super cool. As always, link in description. The Gaffer add-on allows you to quickly switch through your HDRIs for one function. I find this most satisfying in Eevee because you can just swap them very easily, but it does have limited functionality with Eevee. It's made for Cycles, And here's where the real power comes in. If you hate having to go through all the different lights to change settings, you're gonna love this add-on, like a lot. In the End tab, you get this panel over here where you'll see all of the different lights that you have available. You can choose to solo the lights, meaning it'll only show whatever light you just chose. You can select lights by clicking this little icon here. You can hide them if you want. You can change what type they are, for example. And perhaps most importantly, you can adjust the strength as well as the color. Dramatic, isn't it? I think I'm gonna make that a wallpaper. With the Maze Any Mesh add-on, you can go ahead and go into edit mode and press Maze Mesh Selection, and then you'll have a whole bunch of options here, and it basically just uses an algorithm to generate a whole maze for you. And that's super cool. Keep in mind that with something like this, you're going to want to turn on Auto Smooth because you don't want any flat parts trying to become smooth or anything like that. And then what I did is I swapped the materials on the inside with a black kind of a matte material and then left the outside a red shiny material, and oh my goodness, this looks really cool. Now I need to make that a desktop screensaver. So long, buddy. Bake Wrangler is a node-based replacement for the inbuilt baking system. fSpy is used to set up perspectives with the camera and the objects in your scene. It used to be just an add-on, but now it's a separate program altogether, as well as an add-on to help import that camera data into Blender. The Auto Mirror add-on allows you to mirror things really easily. The Tissue add-on has a lot of options, and I've seen some people make some really cool stuff with it. Essentially, it's just some generative modeling stuff, kind of like Discombobulator in my opinion. Here's what happens by default if you do that setup, but a quick Google image search will reveal some of the really cool things that people have been doing with it. This next one is called A.N.T Landscapes, and it comes packaged with Blender. All you have to do is press Shift A, under Mesh you'll find Landscape, and you'll have a ton of settings to work with. As you can see, I was messing around with it a little bit. There's main settings, noise settings, display settings, and then the water plane settings. The main ones that you'll probably want to know about are the mesh size, which controls the dimensions of this plot of land. So I could make it 16 by 8, and it would just become longer like that. Or we could make it smaller but more detailed, such as 4 by 4. That's cool. Or even 2 by 2, if we want it to be very detailed. And keep in mind that the subdivisions up here are what's going to actually be the subdivider for your model. The display settings are how you're going to change the height and all of that. Just make sure you change the maximum and minimum if you extend yourself beyond those values. KitOps is an insert system. Basically, it has a bunch of kit bashing objects for you with all the booleans ready to go so that you can just kind of insert them and it's all ready. And you can also create your own inserts and add them to the library, and it's pretty cool. There is a free version, although the full featured version is paid. If kit bashing is part of your workflow, this could still be something to check out. MB Lab lets you create your own human models and animate them. It may not be as good as Face Builder for faces, but in case you don't want to take a bunch of pictures of your face or someone else's face, this could be for you. The Edge Flow add-on allows you to fix your flow of topology by certain tools such as Set Edge Flow, where you can choose your iterations, choose your tension, all sorts of things to get the flow of your model just right. And when you're done with all that, you can select the other edges if you want to make it linear again and choose Set Edge Linear. And there you go. You can even make all the edges in between spaced evenly by checking this box right here. If you're a fan of ZBrush and you like to use it in coordination with Blender, you may have heard of the Gob add-on. It allows you to bring files to and from ZBrush and Blender pretty seamlessly. The Beveled Curve add-on allows you to create beveled curves within this end panel over here, and you can choose, of course, a lot of these settings. You could make it a half circle, for example, or a circle, or a square. There's a lot of options, and so the idea with this is that the edges are beveled and you can also make a fall off towards the end of each edge. And so once you set all of this up, or no tip if you just want it to all be completely straight and consistent, but once you've got all that set up, you'll have a beveled curve that you can of course edit with all of that flexibility that you would of course expect with a curve in Blender. The Bool Tool add-on comes packaged with Blender and it makes booleans pretty easy. If you select two objects and then press Ctrl-Shift-B, you'll get this Bool Tool pop up. The auto boolean will create the boolean and cut it out and apply the modifier altogether, while the brush boolean operation will leave it as a wireframe so that you can adjust it after the fact. You could even go in and edit it if you want to. Easy HDRi is kind of like the Gaffer tool, except instead of the lighting and HDRi tools, it just has the HDRi tools. Except I believe this is a bit faster and it generates the thumbnails automatically. Also, it lets you edit the world settings in a bit more detail. As always, you'll choose your folder that contains your HDRIs and you can cycle through them and it will attach those HDRIs. Something I wish it could do is rotate the HDRIs just like Gaffer does, but as it is, it's a fine tool. The next one is Mesh Tools. It comes included with Blender, you just have to enable it. And under W, under Mesh Tools, you'll find some of the options that they have for you. One of them that I think has some potential for my workflow is multi-extrude. But as Mesh Tools users will tell you, there are many more options for you. Some of them are probably much more useful than this one. This next one is animation nodes. It's so popular that it has a box to the right in Google. Now, as I said earlier, I am not the type for nodes, but I'll show you a show reel of things that are created with animation nodes. It's actually quite impressive. Like some of these where they're building up the model from scratch, or I believe audio visualizers can be created with animation nodes. It's a very, very useful package. There's just so much to learn about it. BookGen is one of those add-ons that fits into a category of just adding one little thing, like a book generator, or there's a Bolt Factory add-on that comes shipped with Blender. Just adding little small things like that. It's not something that I would probably use that much, but someone spent their time to make this, so thank you for that. The Simple Lattice add-on allows you to just go to an object and then go in your search and press Create Lattice, and it will create a lattice for you following the model, and it'll add the modifier and everything for you, so it's really nice. The developer describes this as a work in progress, but he clearly did a pretty good job. This next one is called Pie Menus. I've started using it more since that 100 tips video. One of my favorite pie menus that you can use is if you press the tilde, you'll get a orthographic wheel like this. So I could just go wham, top, right, bottom, left. See, it's just super fast, and that's what I really love about pie menus, is if you can memorize the spot where it is. And Blender's all about speed already. People tend to get into Blender and be overwhelmed by the amount of shortcuts, but then, you know, once you get into it, then you're all of a sudden just flying super fast because you know all the shortcuts and it's just boom, there it is. That's kind of how I felt with pie menus, because at first I don't know what I'm doing, but then all of a sudden you're moving like this instead of having to move your hand all the way over to the numpad to do that same thing. And as I said in the other video, there are a ton of different pie menus that you can use, and you're just gonna have to look through all of them to understand which ones are gonna help your workflow the most. But my personal favorite is absolutely the tilde for viewing modes. The Blender Cloud add-on allows you to sync up your user preferences between different machines, and soon they're gonna be doing image sharing, and that's really cool. So I can see how that would be really useful if you had a laptop that you use at work and a desktop that you use at home, and you wanna stay consistent in your work. Random Mesh allows you to take happy little objects and
destroy that mesh.
And at long last, you can finally make, oh, that's horrifying. No, but people have been making some really cool stuff with Random Mesh. If you do a quick Google image search, you'll find some very, very, really awesome looking art just using this one little add-on. I mean, just look at this thing, it's incredible. I mean, just think of all the crazy and creative things we could do while rendering this. Bevel After Boolean is a work in progress add-on that allows you to set automatic bevels for booleans that you create. If you use an NVIDIA GPU, you can use denoise, which is an artificial intelligence denoiser for Blender. Here you can, on their website, you can actually see what the differences are in rendering. However, you do need a NVIDIA GPU that is above the 700 series. And if you don't have that, there's always the Intel denoiser, and there's lots of denoisers that are available. This is one of them that I've happened to be aware of. And it is by Remington Creative, and they tend to produce very high quality stuff. The F2 add-on adds some fill functionality. It comes shipped with Blender by default. One of the more popular uses I've seen is that all you have to do to fill something like this, instead of having to do the tedious this kind of thing, which is awful, all you have to do is select this one edge, press F, F, F. There we go. It's super quick, it just allows you to get things done faster. The Scatter Objects add-on comes shipped with Blender for free by default again, and what it allows you to do is specify an object that you want to scatter and then draw across an area pick some settings, and it will randomly scatter that object around based on where you've drawn and the settings that you chose. There's a rock generator add-on that will allow you to just generate some rock shapes. Textures aren't included, you're gonna have to add those on yourself. But for what it is, it's a nice add-on that may be worth checking out. This next one is called Oscuart Tools, and it's really useful for certain things. It's got a bunch of different functions. One of them is distribute objects. I think I'll be using this one the most when I use this add-on. All you have to do is go to the context menu with W, and then under Oscuart Tools, distribute objects, click OK. And look, it'll evenly space them out. That's pretty cool. There are some other things you could do, like quickly removing modifiers. And overall, you just gotta look through and see if any of the settings are going to apply to your workflow that often. Because obviously you can't use 100 add-ons at once, or maybe you can. That's actually a great video idea. But anyways, you probably won't be using 100 add-ons at all times. So you gotta pick the ones that you really like and use those, because you don't want your end tab to get all cluttered up and everything. So you just gotta figure out if any of these apply to you all the time, and then if so, then you can choose to use this add-on. Coming in at number 70 is the 3D Print Toolbox. Here I'm gonna flash on the screen some of the options that are available. It's got a whole lot of them meant for cleaning up meshes and basically preparing your objects for 3D printing. A lot of people are into 3D printing, and so I just want to make sure that I throw one of those in there. Amaranth is a collection of quality of life tools that you would think would probably be in Blender already. One of those is you can double click on a texture and it will open it in the image editor down there. No, really, it's really cool. And if you go into the preferences and you look under the tab here, you can see all of the different things that are available, and you can even turn them on and off. Very nice little out of the way add-on that you might find useful. Mira Tools is another collection of options for you. One of my favorites is this noise deform. I think that's such a intuitive thing to have in Blender. It also looks sick, so there's that. There's a whole lot of other tools, and the GitHub page has really nice explanations and figures for all of them, so I'd recommend that you check that out if you want to make this part of your workflow. Advanced Boolean tools should probably have been back in that section where we were creating a free version of HardOps, because, well, just watch this. I'm adding in another cube on top of this one. First I'm gonna apply the scale, then I'm gonna select them both. And the shortcut in Advanced Boolean Tools is Alt-X. And so you get this whole wheel here. You've got Booleans, you got bevels, you got quick modifiers, shading, all this good stuff. Now I'm just gonna go to Slice, and now I'm just gonna go to Bevel Preview and turn it on. Okay, I'm gonna go to Bevel Adjust. I'm just gonna start adjusting that bevel. And at that point, it's basically HardOps. Like, this is literally HardOps right here. By the way, when I say stuff like that, I'm not hating on HardOps at all. I just want to make sure that people know that they don't have to have HardOps to make hard surface stuff. There's a bunch of other tools, and by the way, shout out to New Media Supply. They own a website called blenderaddons.org, which contributed a lot to my research for this video, and they've pretty much made tutorials on like half of the add-ons that I've talked about today. So go ahead and give them a watch if you're confused or want to learn more about any of the add-ons that I've talked about so far. Magic UV is a collection of UV related tools. I don't see stuff like this a lot, which is why I wanted to put this in here. Now, a lot of the features are beyond me, so if you want to check out the wiki, I've put that in the description. There's lots of tools, as you can see here, like immediately copy paste UVs, transfer UVs, mirror UVs, all this kind of stuff is just super cool. And from what I've heard, it makes UV editing much, much easier. So skim through the wiki real fast to figure out if it's for you. And let's move on to the next add-on. The next one is Tex Tools. I did try this one out, but I'm just going to show you the website because it's got a lot more to say than I have. As you can see, there's just so many tools in here. And this one also has to do with UVs and textures. They obviously put effort into their stuff, and it's a pretty good add-on if UVs are a big part of your workflow. The Piperator add-on can be used to add pipes between faces. Check this out. I go to Shift-A, add pipes, and then you can mess around with all the different settings. This is what I came up with. It looks pretty crazy, but there's been some cool things that people have made with it. I do want to say with this one, it can be a little frustrating to install if you don't enable the testing tab here. So to do that, you just have to shift click on testing. By default, it'll only have the official and community tab selected. So make sure when you install it, testing is selected. These images show you the power of this next add-on, Array Tools, better than I possibly could. The developer wanted to set out to recreate the 3ds Max Array Tools inside of Blender. And here are some examples of what people have been able to pull off with it. It doesn't use any modifiers, it just uses the end panel as you might expect, and it can create some insane looking things, so check it out if this is something that you might want to attempt. The UV Squares add-on allows you to align your UVs with a grid or with a certain increment. The Beam Builder add-on lets you use all these special profiles to generate beams. The Camera Manager add-on adds some more convenient options for rendering and things for the cameras, such as automatic tracking of objects and managing multiple cameras at once. Additionally, there's a Render All button, which could replace the Render Burst add-on. This one is called Curve CAD Tools, and it's pretty cool. If you have your curves set to 2D, you can do things such as W, Bezier CAD, and Boolean. That's right, you can do Boolean operations on curves now. It's incredible. Now if you want, you could bring it back to 2D. You could even try to convert it to a mesh if you want, and then you can go ahead and extrude, and look at that. Now there's so many more things you can do with this. You can read up about all of them on the GitHub page. Most of the add-ons from now on are going to be paid, and so for all the paid ones, I'm just going to be showing the website. 1, because I can't afford them now. 2, because it's 1 a.m. and you know what happens at 1 a.m. So it's time to get going on here. Ragdoll Tools is an add-on that makes it easy to create ragdoll simulations for your armatures. Pro Lighting Skies is a bit on the expensive side, but they've got a ton of HDRIs and nice skies for you to use. I believe this one is by Andrew Price, so you know it's going to be high quality. Grasswald is a nature add-on for Blender that looks incredible, and it's just got some really high quality vegetation for you. It does look to be on the more expensive side at $80, but it looks like the average rating is very high, and it looks like the users seem to appreciate it a lot. At $35, Chaos is the ultimate explosion add-on. I could explain further, but why would I when I can just show you this? Awesome stuff. Extreme PBR Combo comes with 1,000 materials for most Blender versions. It looks to be very well put together and usable in Eevee as well as Cycles. Be sure to check it out if you're looking for a material library for Blender. At $30 is Danny Mac's iDesigner. He also makes YouTube videos on Blender, making non-photorealistic characters. If that is something that you are interested in, then this add-on could be for you. At $40 is Asset Manager, one of the more well put together asset management add-ons for Blender. If you use a lot of different assets, this could definitely be helpful for you. I would just recommend looking through the description, of course, and all of the images and demos that are available before purchasing. At $75 is Flip Fluids. I mean, what else is there to say? It's Flip Fluids. Everyone knows that Flip Fluids is like the best fluid simulation add-on, and there's just whole entire compilations of fluid simulations that are just awesome. Check out this one with soft serve ice cream. Now obviously this add-on is really cool and all that, and oh wow. Yep, I want it. Ghost Tool creates little cool ghosts with your animations. Text Effects lets you create cool text animations just within Blender. Mesh Machine contains a lot of useful tools for creating hard surface models, except most of you already know about this one. It's Mesh Machine. Retopoflow is a great set of retopology tools. It's by CG Cookie, and they always produce high quality stuff. I mean, check out this workflow. It's nice. Bezier Mesh Shaper allows you to create curves and then deform meshes based on those curves. It's on the cheaper end at $10, and if you think this would really speed up your workflow, then that could definitely be worth the investment. Speed Sculpt is all about making the sculpting process faster. Some examples of that is, you know how you have to go like out of sculpt mode into edit mode and all that to do certain operations, such as booleans or things like that? Well, with Speed Sculpt, they try to bring it all into one mode so that you have to do as few clicks as possible. And as a Blender user, that's always welcome. This one's called Pivot Transform. It allows you to just move the pivot point like you would a normal object. Not sure why you can't do that already, but $5 and it's in your pocket. The next one is Box Cutter. This is one of my favorite add-ons ever. It is $20, and there are alternatives such as Carver MT or JMesh tools, but if you want the full experience, it's here, and it's nice. Partner add-on to Box Cutter is HardOps. It's got a whole bunch of hard surface modeling tools for you, and if you want the bundle, they of course have a bundle as well that's slightly cheaper. I will link this in the description as well as the other two. And now, a moment to appreciate HardOps art. Alright, moments up. Number 99 is Entrend, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it's $5, and essentially it will allow you to replace every vertex in an object with a different object, such as cameras, all pointing to around the center in this example. That's an interesting idea there. But is it worth $5? That's up to you. And finally, number 100 is make pillow. Turn it on, go into object mode, Shift A, mesh, make pillow, and I'm going to bed. It's 1:30 in the morning. I hope this video was useful to you. So I had fun making this video. Please let me know any add-ons in the comments that I totally missed. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.